What is up? It's your boy Johnny Shreve, IFBB Pro Muscle Tell Like It Is. Welcome back to an episode of Coaching Up. Today we're coaching up Jesse James and his video before, but it's called Can 100-Pound Girl Survive 300-Pound Bodybuilding Workout? This is starring Kyle Wilkes. You guys probably know Kyle Wilkes. He is he's Anthony Mintello's coach. He's part of that Revive crew. Matt Jansen, I guess, would be the leader of all those guys. I was actually coaching under Matt Jansen a few years back, but his training style is very, very sacrifice hypertrophy, very, very bodybuilding. He's a bodybuilding coach. So really seeing this will be pretty fun to watch, but there's some things in here that I've already looked at that we can definitely optimize through the training, but he gives some really good cues because if you guys are a fan of Kyle's at all or that whole group, they're very, very meticulous with proper movements, good form, crazy amount of engagement, contraction, and time and attention. So you're getting a lot of volume here. So we're gonna dive in this guys right now and see how we can optimize this. So let's go.
Push those squats into the pad. Control it down. Good. Come on. 4. 1. Come on.
The good tip he gives there is, like, pushing your hips into the pad when doing this, and that's a huge cue to give because a lot of people don't do it. They do a lot of hip flexion to help aid that lift. Now, what I mean by that is basically come over here for a second. We'll kind of show you guys what I'm talking about. And wash your hip.
Focus, focus, focus. Ain't no laughing.
It's laughing in pain.
Again. 8. Come on.
All right, there you go. So this machine here is angled in the way that it actually kind of puts you in a position to help with putting your hips into the bench. What we have here is a typical thing she's doing now. She's probably got really good flexibility and mobility in her hips anyway, but she's able to a little bit keep her hips down. When we talk about hips down, we want this hip driving to the floor here. So we want this thing basically like completely flat when it's there. So when we're here, we want her hips basically flush here without this little bit of a gap in between here. And that's gonna put a lot more emphasis on her hamstrings, a lot more. You can see even here when she's flexing, we have a nice little bulge here coming up. And that's from a lot more of how she's actually placing her hips. If she wasn't doing that at all, you see her butt popping up a lot more. You can see his engagement. But so a couple points I wanna include on some good points that Kyle made. Again, like the good control, making sure we're showing our tempo, squeezing the reps, basically contracting when we're actually pulling. But again, one thing we wanna make sure we do that's overlooked a lot is making sure we extend our hips to keep ourselves engaged in our hamstrings more. So if you do a little trick like this, and everyone try it at home, literally, if you hold on to something, I don't care what it is, go like this and then put your foot, make sure your knee is straight and put it behind your leg, up straight like this. And then, doesn't matter if you're dorsal flex or plantar flex, I want you to pull your hamstring up while leaving your knee behind, right? So our hip is extremely extended from here. Just do this and see how much harder it actually is, doesn't matter dorsal or plantar, than doing this, right? We're putting more emphasis on the hamstring by extending the hip and taking our glutes out of the equation. So when we do this, we're using our glutes to help pull the weight up when our knee's in this position. So we don't want any hip flexion whatsoever. You want complete hip extension. So when I'm sitting in this, my approach to this will be getting inside. Doesn't matter if this is like a commercial leg curl or whatever, or a garage one, just like this. The same rules apply. Once I get myself down, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna immediately push my hips forward. Like I'm engaged my core. I don't wanna hyperextend, just doing this. I guess I'm kind of a seal. Just doing this shit here, So basically like what I'm doing is I'm engaging my core so I'm not hyper extending too much, but I'm just pushing my glutes forward. So as soon as I set myself down, you can see the weight already coming up because my hips are here. If I let my hips loose, this is what happens, right? So I wanna do this. So I wanna keep this gap covered here by just engaging my core and flexing my glutes a slight bit. It's getting a little crazy in here right now. Getting a little too friendly with this bench. What's up, bench? Don't me too me after this, please. All right, so we're just basically hips forward from here, dorsal flexion from here, a little stronger of a position, and then pulling. While we're pulling, we're pushing our hips into the bench. You're gonna feel it a lot more in your hamstrings. Now the difference between doing this way and plantar flex is, and I went over this the other day with the Jay Cutler video, when we go plantar flex, we're engaging the gastrus a little more, and that's gonna help with a little bit of knee flexion. So that's why you feel your calf a little more when you do it this way, and it's a lot harder. But again, we're still trying to keep our hips engaged, pushing down the floor, we can keep our butt down. We don't wanna do this. I'm gonna avoid doing this. I wanna be here, not here. Here, not here. All right, and pull. Engage, squeeze, control it down, Squeeze and control it down.
So babe, 4, don't rush. Come on, 4 more. Come on. 1.
See, if you're gonna do pulses, see how our hips are popping up? Even more from here. So what I do for when I coach all my athletes is as soon as you have a technical breakdown, stop, because there's no point in trying to squeeze out more reps when you're taking away the load from that muscle. Now, you're still gonna get load from here, which she's doing, obviously, but again, we're trying to really force load on there. So as soon as you feel your hips are coming up, extending the set, getting a lot more volume, time, and attention, which is fine, but there's no point of doing partials or drop sets or super, or any type of rep scheme to lengthen the set duration if your form is gonna break down. So only add those things if you can continue to keep your form aligned. Let's go to the next movement.
It's your last warm-up set.
Warm-up?
Yeah, of course. I said 8 reps, remember? This is just 3s. We're just feeling it out. I gotta see how strong you are. Good.
Okay, so we got some knee valgus going on here. Okay, so we are going up in weight. Now, here's my thing as a coach. I don't have to do things out of my spectrum, or I don't have to do things like this to engage somebody's glutes more or to make the set harder. In terms of like, you can make your set harder without adding weight. I just did a post about this the other day. You don't have to add weight all the time. Until your form is perfect in the range of motion that you're in, don't add weight. There's already a breakdown in her form, and she's obviously basically pretty gassed and doesn't train like this, obviously. So adding a different kind of stimulus to her actual workout, having her squat like this, isn't necessarily the smartest thing to do in terms of like her safety, to be honest, like, and then impingement. So let's just go to her actual squat for a second here. Okay, this is a good spot from here. Got one more, and so you can see the breakdown. Okay, so we're looking at the toes. All right, here is our toe alignment from here. All right, so this is on her concentric. She's going up from here. On her way up, her knees are caving in. We got that whole, you know, fight or flight thing going here. We got the knee valgus going on. And the reason why we're having a lot more knee valgus here, because her feet are in a pretty good position in terms of like not being extremely duck foot. So her feet aren't all the way out here, almost like a sumo. They're pretty forward there. I would say they're at around 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock if this was like, say, 12 o'clock right here, right? So looking at this, the issue we have is this ultra wide stance we have. So here's her shoulders we have here. When I say a little bit outside shoulder width apart, I'm looking at her feet maybe like here. Like I'm talking like her heels being in more. That means her knees would have to be more so in this region here instead of so far back out. Right? So right away, her most strongest area is going to be, I used to call it like in the cylinder here. Basically in here, you stay in your cylinders, your feet were kind of a little bit outside here. You're in a good strong position, so you want to externally rotate, you're good to go. But here, and she's got great development in her hamstrings and her quads. She has great development in her quads, like she has really good development here. So she has the strength to do it, which means that she should be in a better position to be able to expose or exploit her good, strong, natural stance. I want you guys to watch this, both men and women. This is not a female thing. Just because a female doing exercise doesn't mean there's not women and men specific movements. There are gender neutral mistakes. I'm actually gonna use Erica here to show you guys how to optimize that in a quick little tutorial on how to properly squat. Let's check it out. Okay, so I'm gonna use Erica for this first example for the squat. So, because I see a lot of like women do it, but even men too, thinking that we have to do like wide stance squats. If you do any kind of wide stance, anything, do it like a sumo. You know what I mean? Either way. So the problem with doing wide stance, and I'm gonna show you right now. So she's gonna get herself position, right? Back's on it properly, the rack's on right. It's racked up properly, she unracks. Now going too wide. Now when we're too wide, we don't have enough a position here to really externally rotate. So if your knees are too open and then your feet even are duck foot too much, we can't necessarily hyperextend to the fullness here because our hips in this position can be way too exposed. So what we want to do is we want to get ourselves in a good position where we're like in a, I don't know, somewhere a little outside shoulder width apart at most, where you are naturally able to actually, you know, have your feet, but it's definitely not that wide like before. Again, from here, pretending we're gonna open up the floor with like, if trying to rip a piece of paper on the floor, but we're gonna externally rotate, making our knees align with our toes, and then from there, chest up, big breath in, and squatting down. Hips and knees are gonna break at the same time. And then pressing up, right? And then not locking the knees out. So we're trying to make sure we're going all the way down, and then the hips are gonna come up and forward still. The difference between doing this and a deadlift, for the most part, is you're not gonna get as much knee flexion. So we also wanna avoid doing this when we're just having the hips go back first, and then caving down like this, right? We wanna avoid that. For this, we wanna make sure the knees and hips break at the same time. So go, and there you go, and pressing up, and we want to press from the entire foot, not just the toe, not the heel. We want to push from the entire foot, so we're really feeling it from here, gripping with the toes, and from the middle of the foot. We want to make sure we can keep our center of mass aligned with our bar pathway. So go down from here, right over top, toe, knee, chin, and then pressing right up. And there you go. So avoid unnecessarily widening your stance to try to hit your glutes or your hamstrings more. Leave this in a position where we can do this in a hinge position. If you're doing like a sumo deadlift, that makes it a little better, a little more optimal for that way. Still getting good hip extension, but again, we want to avoid unnecessarily widening the feet. So this, and then squatting, not necessarily needed because the knees can cave in on the way up. And then when we're doing it right, there you go. That's more optimal. Little outside shoulder apart, toes and knees, toes at 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. Knees and hips flex at the same time. Tight core, pressing up. There you go. All right, so again, let's just watch a couple more reps and we'll kind of like just go over again what we can do with this.
Good, come on, thanks, you're strong. Good, come on, you got to come hard out of the hole.
I don't want to use more weight if I don't have to, but our squat isn't bad at all from the side. Again, we want to really avoid the whole like pelvic tilting forward.
You won't pass out.
I can't breathe.
Go ahead. Come on, then. Good. 7 more. Let's bang them. Come on. Down, down, down. Trust me. We're not racking it, so we gotta go.
I can't.
Come on.
I literally can't.
Deep breath, deep breath. You can do it. Come on.
I can't.
Let's go.
I literally can't.
As a coach, know when to push. Now they're doing, this is for a YouTube video, so there's definitely, you know, some extra going on there, I would assume. But when you're coach, for you coaches out there, know when to add those extra reps to lengthen the set. You know, you should be able to look at your set as they go, the tempo of the set, the quality of the set, the effort, the breathing, all those cues you want to look at when you're actually judging somebody squatting, even yourself, those who are watching or squatting themselves. You guys know how many reps you have left in a sense, right? If you're actually training pretty hard. So know when to judge, know when to push, know when to pull in terms of like effort or backing off and knowing when you're going to hit his failure point and not be safe. Anyway, let's move to the next exercise.
One.
Babe, come on.
Control it.
You got this.
You got this.
5 more reps.
2. Awesome. Good.
There we go.
And we can walk right on over here.
There we go.
Come on. Come on.
You got this. Hey, are you?
Okay, a couple things here we're looking at right away. Her feet, knees are caving in. She is extremely tired. Her posture is off.
We got 3 more steps.
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna, stop watching that, Jesus Christ. We're gonna, whew. Okay, they're doing something, it's fun, it's cool, but for me as a coach, drop the weight, you know, pull back. If their form breaks down, they can't handle the load. If their form is breaking down, number one thing I'm gonna think about is their form. Obviously, if it's breaking down. 2, if they have weights and their form is breaking down, whatever weight that is probably causing some of the breakdown if the form was pretty good to begin with. Now, when it comes to leg press and then walking lunges, putting those together to lengthen your set is pretty mean. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily have someone do, you know, a lot of leg pressing and then superset that. I would want to get the best out of both worlds. I would want to get enough to be able to do my leg press first, and then when I've rested and quit enough time, then move on to lunges. And yeah, right? So that's what I would do. That's what they're doing for this whole thing. Cool, but I'm gonna show you guys how to do both these movements and optimize that, because again, we're looking at a couple things here. Let's just take a look at it before we move on to those movements. Okay, this already right now is something we do not want. I'm just gonna kind of pull this little up here and kind of tell you how we do want this. We want her shoulders to basically be here. Roll these things back and down. Having those arms not necessarily straight, but intentionally protracting and pushing the weight to the floor. And then we're looking at, she's already gassed out, she's going back into this thing.
9 more.
Good. Now you can already see her feet right now in the position that they're in. She's doing a little knee valgus caving in thing. There you go, there. Then again, we're looking at the toes from here, right? Those knees need to be over the toe. When she's pressing up, the knees are caving in. And then we're taking a load off these glutes of hers, right? Now again, you're not gonna really get full glutes from doing leg press, and I'll explain that to you right now. So I'm gonna go over leg press and then walking lunges and show you guys how to actually load the glutes, but you're never gonna really get full glutes out of this. This is a hamstring quad dominant movement here, right? Because we're only eccentrically loading the hamstrings on the way down in a sense, and concentrically loading those quads, and essentially loading the quads will too, but the quads are getting more to this movement than anything else. So let's go with that right now. Check it out. Okay, a couple of things I want to get very, very clear when it comes to leg press, because a lot of people, a lot of people kind of put out the tune that if I put my feet out wide, I'm going to hit more glutes or whatever it is. It's wrong. The only way you can hit more glutes in this is if you are literally able to go and complete basically extension of the hip, right? The only way for our glutes to actually work, they have to go from here in some term to here. In here you don't, because you're stuck in a position where you're still like this. So as I am pushing, this isn't doing this, right? The only necessarily way you can actually kind of hit it and put a load more onto it is externally rotating. So when I get into the leg press, I'm gonna get myself situated, get my butt down. As soon as I'm up, I wanna push my butt right in the back. So I'm pushing pressure already here, right? Now, I want to externally rotate, because again, when external rotation comes from the glutes, I've talked about this a billion times already. External rotation, the glute max is going to do that. So if you can watch it from the side doing this, you can see the difference in how my legs are being activated. Now, all I'm trying to do necessarily is line up my toes with my knees. When I do this, instead of like, trying to take a wide thing here, and now she's doing it, she's kind of coming in it, and their legs are doing this, and this happens all the time. I always see this. This is that CNS, the SNS working, that fight or flight. It's flight. It's like, run away, right? We want to fight. We want to open up. So externally rotating at the hips, just so our knees are aligned. So don't externally rotate, then continue so you're not doing this. I just want you to externally rotate from here, so when we go down, our knees are aligned, but at the same time, now our glutes are actually engaged, but they're not getting the fullness of you actually going full extension. So from pushing from here. So we're doing a set, you want to see yourself, lock yourself in, pull yourself, give yourself leverage. This is what you're going to pretend. This is more so pretending you're going to try and push yourself backwards. So we're here, chest up, heads back, and we're tight from here, letting it come down and then squeezing through, exploding through whatever. But while I'm going down, you can see my knees are aligned with my toes. My glutes are on, they're engaged. They're not fully extending, but the most of this I'm getting through is my quads and hamstrings kind of coming down for a knee flexion and then knee extension. And biggest thing is, again, keep yourself stiff as a board, right? Shoulder depression, roll yourself back and down, tight here, pull yourself. You can see when I'm pulling myself like this, the weight actually comes up. I want that. That's gonna give me stabilization and leverage when I'm pushing. So doing this and then trying to do this isn't really gonna help. Pull yourself in, pull it back, and drive through. Control it down and drive. And again, when we're pressing on the plate, we are pushing with their heels and gripping with the toes. So on the way down, I'm feeling this entire load on the bottom of my foot. I'm not just pressing like this, right? I am from here. You can see how I'm gripping with my toes. External rotation, letting the weight come down. Again, before that, setting myself in, chest back, chest up, head up, controlling weight down. Squeezing through. You see how my knees are aligned with my toes, and I'm gripping with my heels and my toes. A walking lunge is just an exaggerated stride. The same way your hips and your feet and everything moves, the way you walk is the same way it should. When you're doing a lunge, the only thing is basically you're having an elongated stride. Your stride's a lot longer. So what we're trying to do is making sure when we're doing this that we still have a good amount of hip and knee flexion and that knee moving over the toe. So you're not necessarily walking forward and then having your leg just dip like this. You're walking forward and then you're pushing that knees going down, so then you can feel the weight transfer from that glute to heel, and that heel still getting down there from the knee and hip flexion and really pushing into your toe and then pushing up this way and moving forward and going down. So when they're doing this, right, so the thing is not to necessarily just get to here and then just kind of up, down like this. You want to get to the point where your heels absorbing the weight, glutes are pushing down, knee over toe, from here pushing back, and there again is stretch this out, and then using that back foot and then toe transfer to go to the next one from here and then back and then here again. Again, we're not going from here going down and just doing this. We're going from here, knees going forward, knees going back, knees going forward, and then going up. When we're doing it with like dumbbells, my advice is if you cannot do this properly without weight, You can do this probably without weight, don't add weight, right? Get everything engaged first from the ground up and then add weight. So when we're doing this, when we have our weight here, you don't want your arms to be just loose because we get this kind of thing where the weights kind of do this and this kind of moves like that, right? You want to have yourself engaged where you're letting the weights push yourself to the floor, is bring your hands to the floor, almost protracting, and then we're gonna have a slight little lean because when we're walking or running, we have a little bit of a slight lean depending on how fast we're going. If we're sprinting, we got a crazy lean. If we're just walking, a really small lean, and because we're doing elongated stride, AKA lunge, we're gonna have a slight little bend or tilt or lean when we're doing this. So I don't wanna be like this and going down and doing this, and I don't wanna go from here and then just be over this way and doing this, right? We wanna make sure we're here, shoulders round, backing up, and chest is over and up. So when we start, your walking lunge should look like from here, and again, feet will never be crossing over. Make sure your stride, your walk, you wanna make sure when you're doing the actual lunge that your shoulder width apart with your feet. They stay the same way they would if you're actually walking. Don't try and tightrope because that's when you're starting to get this kind of like imbalance bullshit. So don't try and, you know, narrow your stance. Keep your stance natural, chest natural, shoulder width apart, chest up, a little bit of a lean, and then pushing down. And I'm gonna have these weights push down with me. So I'm natural with how I'm moving, so I avoid my upper body doing this. So I'm pushing the weight down, the slight lean, pushing down, right? And then you can go back and forward if you want to. Heading back, we'll do the way they did. We'll kind of upgrade it a bit, optimize it a little bit more. Chest up, pushing my hands to the floor, down, pressing through back, pulling forward, moving up. Push down, knee goes forward, knee goes back, still engaging that back foot, knee goes forward, down, pushing through. Here, up, here, move. Here, up, here, move. Here, up, here, and like that. You can see my feet are shoulder width apart while we're moving, but we don't want to do this giant step either, right? Yeah. Hey guys, hope you guys enjoyed that video. Guys, make sure you guys take some of those cues and add them to your workout next time we do legs, and let me know how it goes in the comments below, guys. Let me actually know if you guys are implementing any of the things that I'm coaching. I want to hear about it. Let's start a conversation. I know you guys are talking about it already, but let's chat. I want to hear you guys' feedback on how my tips have been helping you guys out, or how you could need, or how you can maybe use some more help. So let me know. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and share. You know, become with that tell it is transparent, vulnerable truth. And for coaching, johnnyshoe.com, guys. If you want to know more about my coaching, book yourself a 15 to 30-minute consult. At the end of the consult, I deduct it off any package that you pick. Also, guys, hit the description below for those discount codes and promo codes to help save a life or change your life for the better. Like Johnny10 for 10% off Blue Star Nutraceuticals. Use that link below. Get yourself 10% off. Guys, add me on Instagram and TikTok. Guys, send me your progress pics, your training pics, and your video clips that I'll repost it for you, because you know how it is. Iron sharpens iron. Progressive overload your life. In the meantime, keep dream chasing. Peace.